All right, we're back with Mandy Kay, local comedian. She does the Front Range Brewing Company First Friday of the Month comedy show, where she gets local comedians and national comedians traveling through to work out some of their material. It's the first Friday of the month, every month. She has a podcast as well called The Three Mandys. She is also does a comedy show for the service industry on Thursday nights, did you say?
Tuesday.
Tuesday nights at the Chiba Hut in Longmont. And then on Thursday night, she does a open mic comedy night at Long Tucky. Spirits. Thank you. It's a team effort here.
Yeah.
On the old podcast show. So I guess one thing I'm wondering is how you. I'm always interested to see how people get started in their craft, their art.
Yeah, I got started. I was actually working for a company, a third-party logistics company, doing accounts receivable. So I would basically argue all day with people about paying their bills.
Nice.
And I got a little antsy with that. And I was like, I got to find something, So I took a couple classes at the community college, just fun stuff. And I do that when I get bored with life. I start to learn things. And there was a girl in that class that was like, she was like, my cousin Mandy won't stop talking about these improv classes. And I was like, your cousin who? She's got my name? What's an improv class? Like I had never performed. I had never done any kind of performing at all. And she's like, yeah, there's Theater 99 in Charleston is where she was taking the classes. So I signed up for a drop-in class. It was $10. And
That's cool.
I loved it. I wanted to do it all the time. So I signed up for their level 1 class, and it was levels 1 through 5, and eventually got on some of the indie teams. And then they asked me to audition to be in the company. So I was a company member there. I still am, but I was a company member there for about 3 years. And then I sold all my stuff, moved into an RV, and started traveling. And when you do that, it's really hard to find an improv group because good improv groups, like you got to practice with them and you got to get comfortable with
them. It's like
them.
a dynamic, I imagine.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So like I went up to Maine. I was in Maine for 6 months, and we took probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get up there. And I was itching to get on a stage. I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try stand up. And it was always something that I wanted to do, but wasn't anything that I needed to do because I was in this awesome company that did these amazing improv shows, and I never had to work that muscle. So I started doing stand up in Maine, just at an open mic, and did my first set. And I had a really bad haircut, so I made fun of myself.
People loved it.
Yeah, there was actually a mirror. I remember it so vividly because I was nervous, and there's a mirror, and I walked up and I saw myself, and I just turned around and I was like, I look like a retired figure skater. It was so bad. Like my hair's really curly and it was short, so it just curled up like crazy. And I had to have this headband on just to see. Like I look like one of those shaggy dogs. It was terrible. And I said that, and everyone started laughing. And I was like, okay.
So did you just go off the cuff, or did you have some written material?
It was written out. My name's Mandy. It's not Amanda. It's just Mandy. I was named after the Barry Manilow song. So yeah. And I riffed off of that a little bit. And I had actually taken my mom to a Barry Manilow concert. So riffed on that a little bit. Like people were actually asking for my autograph at the concert because they were sitting next to an actual Mandy at a Barry Manilow concert.
Some like creepy drunk dude, like, I just need your autograph.
Oh, no. It was a bunch of creepy drunk older ladies.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I got creeped out with it.
Oh my gosh, hugging me.
Your name is Mandy?
Yeah, and like high-fiving my mom, being like, oh, that was awesome. You named her Mandy. And
that's cute.
It was... and I mean, Barry Manilow puts on a pretty good show because I got a couple of 22s of beer, and I was, I bought my mom those tickets, and I knew I had to go with her.
That's really cool.
But yeah, he was really good. Yeah, I enjoyed him.
I grew up listening to Copacabana. My mom, that's the only song I remember. My mom liked that one, I think.
Every time I say I'm named after a Barry Manilow song, like 9 times out of 10, someone will be like, your name Lola? I'm like, no.
Oh, because her name
My mom
Lola.
didn't name me after a showgirl.
Dun, dun, yeah. It's funny because I've heard you do that bit at Front Range, and I always mean to, like, whenever I hear people talk about songs, I love music, so I'm always like, I want to hear it, and I keep forgetting, but now you reminded me.
Yeah, good.
So I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
Good old Barry Manilow.
I have a few jokes too where I'm like, shut up, Karen. Okay, Linda. I'm like, you like how I'm making fun of generic white girl names, and my name's Mandy.
Yeah.
Like, can't really get away from it.
Yeah. That's good.
I make fun of what you know and what you are.
Yeah. No, I think, I host this music open mic night, and what I've realized is interesting is I've gotten really comfortable like doing kind of the MC thing, and it's like my home away from home. And it's funny, like I like these character ideas. So one of the people I do is like this like self-deprecating, really insecure, like, hey everybody, next
Right.
act up here is gonna like, oh, you're not laughing at this? I thought I was trying to be funny. And people are like, what the like I kind of like the tap into like the sort of like low, like not as extreme, but Andy Kaufman sort of like,
Right. If they're listening,
people are like, is this
keep it
funny or no? Like,
going.
what is Summers doing? You know what I mean?
You got to go hard into stuff like that when you start it.
Yeah, but I know that's again being uncomfortable. Like, what the hell is this? But it's funny to see just what comes out. But yeah, what I was curious about is if you have any advice for people. Like, if people are watching this and they're like, "Well, this is super cool," like how to get started and all that. Jazz.
Go to an open mic and just do it. And if you're thinking about it too much, if you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll do this, and just do it. Just go, and you don't have to do 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If you have a joke that you're writing that's 2 minutes, go do 2 minutes and get off the stage.
What if you just streaked? You're like, I'm nervous. I'm taking my clothes off. That's my name.
I would advise against that.
You think people might get offended by that?
Yeah, I would advise against that. There are a lot of like laws and stuff too, where you're not supposed to show your giblets to everybody.
I'd be like an ego booster for men. They'd be like, I see what he's got, and I feel way better about myself.
I will. Well, I'll tell you, as a female comedian, and as someone who's run shows and done open mics and whatever, usually a male's first set is about doing it or masturbation or something along those lines. And a lot of females it's the opposite of that. They don't really talk about those things when they first go up there. But talk about whatever you want. It doesn't matter. My first time doing comedy is like the first time I had sex and nobody smiled. Like, I mean, I've heard it a lot. Or
like, all right.
It was really fast, or like I've heard a lot of those jokes, but you get those jokes out and then you go to better ones. And
hopefully the first time you do a comedy set, you don't see blood everywhere.
Right. This is true. I've seen people go up there though and like pull some theatrics. Well, I've seen people pull some theatrics, and I'm like, just do whatever you want to do, but watch the audience. Always watch the audience.
People,
yeah, because like I said before, like people will be like, "What can I get away with up there?" And I'm like, "Oh, they'll let you know."
Yeah, I really like that perspective. You said that in the first bit too. First part. That's really cool. It's kind of like that with music. There's so many correlations. I think doing stand up for me would be way harder than music, because unless you're doing singers, but even then I'm just comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But like I have so much more respect, just like looking into it. I listen to a lot of the Joe Rogan podcast stuff too. It's kind of like what kind of started all this stuff. And he has a lot of comedians on there, and it's really cool just to hear the stories and the thought process. Like I've definitely developed a way deeper appreciation for the art, and I have a different way of looking at it now than like prior to the past year or so. Listen to a lot of the interviews with people on there. So a lot of respect for you too. I mean, I think it's great that you juggle full-time job. You bring this great at the Front Range Brewing Company. It's super cool. It's like really good, high quality comedy. It's funny, and you do get a good mix of people in there. Mm-hmm. It really is a special thing that you do there.
Absolutely. I always try to get like diverse comedians. Like I try not to book all of the same perspectives. Like I'm never gonna have all females or all males or all this or all that. Like I like a mix of stuff because I like to laugh at different stuff, and I like people of different ages. Like if I have a younger person, I might have an older person too, just to kind of hit out all the stops, and I feel like as an audience member, maybe you didn't like one person, but you like the rest of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like maybe someone wasn't your cup of tea, but
hang around 10 minutes and this person might be. Yeah.
Exactly. I had a bad review one time because someone stayed for the first comedian and they didn't like him, and they were like, we left. And I'm like, there were 5 other comedians coming up that you might have liked, You
just want to be like, why are you a douchebag?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm like,
you're going to bash this?
Well, and drop your shit. That's if you're people listening, if you're going to a comedy show, drop your shit and laugh. Like have fun. Like comedy is offensive. Something someone's going to say is going to strike you the wrong way. move along, listen to the next joke, have a good time, order yourself another beer, maybe talk to that comedian afterwards and be like, I don't like the way you said this.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Comedians get it all the time. Like, and it's good feedback for them. Okay, that made you feel that way. Maybe I can rework the joke in another way.
I'm always like
Yeah.
nervous when I'm sitting there close that they're gonna be like, look at this guy with the fucked up hair. You know what I mean? Like he still can't figure out 42 what to do with this. You know?
I hate that. I really tell my comedians not to dig into the audience because that
That's
people,
funny though.
it's funny and like some people can take it and some people get crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
They'll hate it and it's just like work on your jokes, don't make fun of people.
Yeah. Well, it's gotta be interesting if you're really comfortable. I always think of like levels to every art and game, you know, like,
Hmm.
and the more comfortable you get being up there, the more it's like I don't know, Zen thing is maybe a bad way, but the more like calm and relaxed, and the more you can keep yourself from like the nerves are like fight or flight, like your
Yeah.
amygdala and all this stuff going on in your brain. So I always think like the more you're comfortable you can get up there, then it's like the more you can see, like read the room and you can see what's going on. But it must get really interesting. It must then you can interact with people more too. And if you're already
Yeah.
naturally funny or you can improv, it's got to be. Sometimes I imagine things just come out. It's like when I'm performing, I don't know what I'm going to play.
Hmm.
If someone's like, take a break, you're like, okay, here we go, boom, and then it's done.
Well, it also comes with time too. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why at Front Range you see the high quality that I'll get because you can get those comedians, you can get them in this area. Like I can snag them from Denver, or if they're doing shows, nationally and they're touring around, I can try to get them. Yeah, I can pull them and get them to come in to Lafayette, and they've done so many rooms. They've done so many shows. They've done shows in LA and they've done tours around. So they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're not a firecracker. They're not I'm not sitting there like, "Oh god, what are they going to say?" Like
Yeah,
I know they're
yeah,
going to take
yeah.
care of that room. Like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is what they're paid to do. Like this is what their job is. Like I'm hoping to get there maybe someday, but comedy is not my job at this point. Like a lot of those shows too, I break even.
Yeah.
Because I'm paying the talent, I'm paying the comedians, and we're charging tickets and stuff too. And all the ticket money is going to go to getting a bigger fish, getting the next comedian. All that money's separate. I keep all that money separate, and it all goes to the comics. And
That's cool.
if I can lure somebody there, because if there's a comic visiting from LA or whatever, like I have to make it worth their while to come out to Lafayette.
Yeah, they're like, what?
Yeah, and like if I can get someone, because right now probably the headliners are doing about 30 minutes, but if I can get someone out there that can do an hour, that's nationally known, that has been on Comedy Central, has done Conan, and and I can get that, and I'm starting to get there.
That's cool.
And I mean, bringing it to Lafayette, it's just fun. It's gonna
Yeah,
be.
I'm super impressed by what you do,
Yeah.
who you bring in there. I didn't know I don't know how long it's been happening for, a year.
A year, yeah, a little over a year.
I think I got hip
Yeah.
to it like 3 months ago. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, this is awesome.
Well, and it's starting to catch on. That's a lot of people, especially nowadays, their marketing strategy is sponsor it on Facebook or, put it on Instagram. That's their marketing strategy. My marketing strategy is after every show, I talk to everybody because I'm a part of this community too. So
Yeah.
I talk to everybody. I go to every table. Who'd you like? Who didn't you like?
That's cool.
Are you going to come back? We do this every Friday. Tell your friends, make them, have them come back, because I want to get that feedback directly. And I want to like look people in the eye and be like, I like you, come back.
Yeah. That's cool.
Well, and it's more of a community vibe, and it gets us out of our screens, and
So
like
important.
for that hour and a half to 2 hours, like everyone's laughing at the same stuff in the same room. It's not going to be duplicated. You're not going to be able to watch it online later.
Yeah, it's a good point too, because there is the vibe of being live with a bunch of people, like sharing the experience together, as opposed to like, it's not really the same if you're at home just like watching it than if you're there.
Absolutely. There's people too that'll be like, are you gonna put it on Facebook? Is it? Nope. I'm not. Come out and have a beer with us and have fun, and it's fun.
Oh, like live, or you can do like a live stream.
Yeah, like, and I'm not doing that yet. Maybe someday I will if the show gets bigger, but it's not. I want people to be there.
You want people to go out.
Yeah.
You need people to. That's the thing with the arts. I mean, you need people to go out to support. I just did this canned food fundraiser. People are like, well, thanks for doing this. But I'm like, you know what? Ultimately, that's all of us. Like this.
Yeah.
Like I have an idea, and I have time to do it because I have the week off for Thanksgiving break. So, and I want to generally do stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I'm like, ultimately, I know in the back of my head, I'm like, these things don't work unless people come out to support,
Oh, yeah, if
So
there's
like,
no audience, there's no point.
there's no point. Yeah, even
Yeah.
like music gigs and all this stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
things don't work unless, it makes me a little nervous when I think of the internet and the impact it can have on that. But ultimately, I think that people are always going to like to go out, and
Mhm.
I think there's going to be a level of, well, it's hard to say with like the upcoming generations, like they're so plugged in, but I know for me, I'm starting to get the like phone burnout where I'm like, man, I'm starting
Mhm.
to read books again and not
Yeah.
just use the iPad or whatever it is.
It's gonna come
And
back around, it always
yeah, I
does,
think so
yeah.
because like, or like maybe you're so plugged in and you're younger and you're getting exposed to like comedians and you can see all this like all like the mainstream professionals, but then like you get to the point where you can go to a bar and you're like, oh, this is awesome. I've
Yeah.
got like, I've got an education on this because I've been watching this on YouTube for X amount of time, but now
Mhm.
I can actually legally go out and see it. I think
Right.
stuff like that'll probably always still happen.
Yeah, well, and I always try to weave in because when I came to Colorado and started doing open mics and started like because I really started hitting comedy hard when I moved here. I started in Boulder, so I grew with a lot of comedians. So whenever I do get those national headliners or get someone that's doing really well, I
Yeah,
also mix it in with some locals for the show
it's cool
because
too.
they need those reps too, and they need to. So I think that's a lot of the reason that I wouldn't put it online because there are people that are doing 5-10 minute sets in between the professionals that I'm booking, and they
Yeah,
don't necessarily want that online. Like I'm the type of person where I've said a few of my jokes here, and if you see me out, you might see me telling them again, but I'm always writing. So it almost pushes me to write more,
yeah, yeah,
like maybe you've used that joke too many times. Everyone knows it. Let's do another one. And that's the joy of like hosting a show because I know I have to do it every month and I know what jokes I did last time and
yeah.
I got to do new ones and I do an open mic every week and I do my Chiba Hut show bi-weekly on Tuesdays. So you're always making yourself work that muscle and
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
better and better. And like we were talking about in the kitchen, like I always compare it to bodybuilding.
yeah.
Like, because if you're a bodybuilder and you don't work out for a month, you're done. When you go back in the gym, your muscles are shit.
It is true. Yeah, I mean that's
Like,
even with music too.
mhm.
But music is just the same with comedy, sort of. Like for me, I know there's a time when if like I do this, then I have to edit the show. So there's things that distract from playing, or like I got tendonitis and I have to take a break.
Mhm.
But then and I'll start stressing like, oh, I just need to, like, it builds up, it
Yeah.
festers, and then you finally play, and sometimes I think time away from it, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my
Yes.
god, this is all the shit I've been working on that I've overthought and analyzed and tried to push it out while I
Mhm.
was like practicing, like maybe it's a fiddle tune or something. But then like all of a sudden like that, there's a process with music, I think in all arts where like it just needs to digest in the back somewhere in our brains and our
Yeah.
subconscious. So being time away from it is actually really good, even though like the type A or whatever the little driver in our heads, or at least for me, it's like I need to work on that, I need to perfect that.
Mhm.
But sometimes just letting it go is it sort of sometimes you see that happening
I see it happening. Me
for you?
personally, I always take a mental health break around the holidays because my family's in Jacksonville, North Carolina. So I always make a point to go there for
Not
about
to be
two
confused with
weeks.
Jacksonville, Florida.
No,
Okay, I
everyone
just want to
thinks
make
it's
sure that
everyone thinks it's Jacksonville, Florida.
yeah.
But Jacksonville, North Carolina, I always go home for 2.5 weeks, and the closest open mic that I've found is in Wilmington, which is about 45 minutes away. So I might be able to hit a mic while I'm there, but that's only if I can. It's definitely not the goal. So I always take 2 weeks to, and I'm with my family. So there's so much material written.
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
it's
Your
insane.
families are great.
Yeah, my family's awesome for that. But the way I write and my style of writing, I'm always writing.
That's
Like
good.
if something funny happens, I'm like, okay. And then I'll write it in my notes. And I know you have a lot of Apple products, but I'll write it in my notes and then it'll go on my Mac.
Yeah.
So I'll write these little quips and be like, this is and then I'll go when I have more time to flesh it out. I'll go on my computer and flesh it out more.
Yeah.
But I'm constantly like, what's funny? Why is that funny? What's happening? Who said that? If someone laughs in my office, something that I said, like
Yeah, no, I know
I'm
what you
quick
mean.
to write that down and I'm always farming myself, if that makes sense.
You're
Like,
farming. Are you
yeah,
organic or are you
yeah.
conventional? I don't
I'm
know. No, I was
always
kidding.
like trying to pull because I mean,
I know
random
what you mean.
things remind you of random things in your childhood and you're like, why am I even thinking about that right now?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and then it goes into a place where you have a bit. you know?
I find myself trying to do at work is like if in case I ever want to try to go out and do like an open mic or something, is I'm trying to work on delivery of things, and then I like it doesn't make any sense, but like trying to like when you do things on the fly, just trying to be funny at work because
Mhm.
I try to bring a lot of humor in because it's really schools are just like pressure cookers,
Right.
and you have to laugh. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And in your counseling, like you just deal with trauma, and we're pretty like
Yeah.
we're not Title I poverty school, but we're definitely like pretty high percentage. So lately, what I try to do is work like try to not like be not like a bit, but like work on the delivery of different jokes that I'm thinking
Mhm.
of on the fly. And middle school kids are great for that.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then the adults, and then sometimes like, yeah, that didn't work. Sometimes I'll do it and I'm like, oh yeah, that didn't work at all,
Oh, yeah.
But trying to think about what it's like to, because it is a thing. What I realize is there's like being funny. Like people are like, oh, you're a funny dude,
Mhm.
you know, versus like I'm going to write these ideas out. I'm going to like create little
Flush them out.
bits. I'm going to flesh them out,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to try to figure out how to like deliver, right?
Yeah.
So like to me that is like I'm like, and that's a lot of work. I mean, I don't think people realize,
Oh, it's not. Well,
you know.
I had a lot of training when I worked with third party logistics because people would call and I mean we destroyed a machine that was $20,000 that whatever. Like I worked in claims for a long time, and people like sometimes we'd lose stuff. I mean nobody ever calls a
Yeah,
shipping company to say thank you, it delivered on time. There's
yeah,
always a problem. But I would always get them to laugh.
yeah,
Like
yeah. That's
I'm like,
good.
whoa, let's see what we can do.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Or people would just be like yelling at me and I'm like, all right, well, I'm in Charleston and your package went from New York and is going to Ohio, so I'm at a desk and I'm going to make some phone calls. You
Like
know
you
what I
gotta
mean?
chill the fuck out in the
Yeah,
meantime.
I'm like, we gotta stop this,
Yeah,
and like you have to hold yourself back and not tell them to fuck off.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a muscle. And I would always try to get them to laugh. I would always try to be like,
That's
we're
good.
gonna figure this out, and like use words like we and us and they and them,
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're good. That's good.
Yeah, like I'm gonna help you, and I use that in my comedy constantly. Like when I first started improv, the whole basis of improv is yes and. You agree and you add. You agree and you add. And if you apply that to your life, you'll be so much happier.
That's
Like
cool. Yeah.
someone asks you something or someone, needs something or just say yes and be kind and add to their life.
Yeah. Add
That's
value
it.
and stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, like and if you live your life like that, then you're not carrying any secrets from anybody, you're not harboring any resentment, you're being positive. And I mean it's hard sometimes, but if you try to structure your
It's
life
hard
that
for
way.
me.
Yeah.
I always like when I like we were talking about the spectrum of douchery earlier. It's like I
Mhm.
always like when I slip. People are like, "You're a counselor." Oh my god! I'm like, "Shut the
Huh.
fuck up." You know what I mean?
Right.
Or like I have to hold it together all day long, constantly. Like it's like the thoughts are coming in. Like, don't say that. Don't say that. Can't say
Mhm.
that. That's gonna be offensive. Don't say that. So when I get out of work, sometimes I'm just like,
Oh,
I just
yeah.
lose the filter.
With
But I get corrected.
with your
And I can.
job, I can imagine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, cuz with mine, like I mean, with my day job whatever, I don't pull the envelope open. I just leave it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows I do comedy and a bunch of them have been to my shows, so they kind of know how I am. But I'm still fun. I still say whatever I want. Like it's still fun. But like with comedy, there has been a few times after an open mic or whatever, especially only with comedians that I'm super fun, like comfortable with. Like I'll be like, "Don't do that joke ever again. That was terrible." And
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
next day, I'm like, "Maybe you shouldn't have told him it like that.
Yeah.
You should have told him
Just softened it a little
you
bit.
should have told him why the joke was terrible and how to
Yeah.
make it better instead of just blatantly being like, that sucked. Don't ever say that into a microphone again."
You're so negative, Mandy.
I know. Well, some people, some of the jokes, I'm like, Jesus God, don't ever do that again.
It's gotta be hard when you're watching somebody sink. It's a Titanic and they just hit the iceberg and they're going down.
Or they're not sinking, but they're saying terrible things.
Yeah.
That's even worse.
That's true.
And I'm like, oh, I hate all of this. And they're getting so many laughs. But,
I
nature
think
of the beast.
it's cool. It's a process. Is like when I was watching you. So there is definitely there is a difference between like you're really funny. There's like it's the hype person. Like when you're introducing people, you kind of
Mhm.
pop up there. Like you kind of warm people up.
Yeah.
That's kind of an art in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's theatrics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I if you're hosting and you're trying to get the crowd to listen, like especially when the shows first started, like a lot of people didn't even know there was going to be a comedy show. Like they came to have a beer with their friends and talk. and now I have a microphone and I'm yelling at them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's a fine line because I want the bar to make money and I don't want people to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also am about to do a comedy show, so I want them to shut up and I want them to listen to me, you know? So I have to go up there and I have to make them interested enough to stop their conversation and to listen to me and be nice enough about it that they're not like, ugh, this is so great, you know? Like, I know the comedians that I have are going to be funny. I
Mhm.
know that. So I have to go out there and take that bullet for them. I have to go out there. I can't count how many times like people aren't listening at all. And I'm like, I'm going to take my shirt off.
I'm like, huh?
And everyone's like, what? And I'm like, you nasties.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be naked.
You know, and like it instantly
The
makes
guys
people
turn their phone up like they're looking at their
it's
phone. Like, is she
so
gonna do
funny.
it?
Well, it's backfired a couple of times, and men being like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "I'm not
No.
gonna actually do it, stupid," you know.
Yeah.
But even if people are like that, and I'm playing off of that, then it makes other people laugh, and it just
Yeah.
breaks the ice. Like they're like, "Okay, we'll listen to you," you know, and then you got to keep them. You got to be like.
Yeah.
You know, and one of my favorite things is, oh my God, give it up for yourselves. You came out on a Friday and you're wearing real pants and drinking. You guys
Yeah,
are my
yeah.
favorite people, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like, and like you'll hear the same riffs kind of, but it's like you just want to get people ready for it and
Yeah, that's
involved
cool.
and give it up for your bartenders, give it up for yourselves, give it up for me. I did this. I'm awesome.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
get people used to clapping, get them used to,
Loosen up and get them out of this
yeah,
cognitive land.
and get them ready because
Transition them
there's-
into the ride.
yeah, there's nothing worse than doing a comedy show and there's like one table that's not on board.
Yeah.
And they're talking the whole time. And people like that unconsciously try to talk over the microphone. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is an amplified device.
Well, it's a shame. Oh no, you get that too. Like the open mic, it's like you're almost like, all right, if you're not here for the show, you just
Go somewhere else. And
Yeah.
like, and there's a few times where I've gone up to people and I'm like, hey, if you don't want to watch the comedy, and if, especially at Front Range and in Long Tucky, there's another place you can go, like,
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy your drink and enjoy your friend. And I'm not offended. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
please go and do that instead of sitting in the middle of my show and trying to talk the comedians. Like, I'm paying these people to come and entertain.
And
You know?
people are there like that want to like go to check it out, you know,
Yeah.
and not listen to like the conversation at their table.
Well, and it's a fine line because you don't want I don't want them to have a bad time either.
And you get a bad review, like she came up to me and told me that. Oh,
Right.
The world of hypercritical.
And you're not going to make everybody happy. Like, you're just not. There's absolutely no way. But if I can make 90% of the people happy, then those 90% of the people will go after those 10%. And I don't
Yeah.
have to do it.
You can give them the
know?
look,
Yeah.
the like uncomfortable.
You got to be subtle and you've got to be like, my background, like my family, my mom works for senior citizens. Like, my sister's a social worker, my aunt's a teacher, my grandmother's been a foster parent for 30 years. So I have this sort of innate, I want to take care of people and I want to make sure everybody's okay, which sucks for stand-up comedy because it's so cutthroat.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cutthroat and like everyone wants to be the best and everyone's calling to be the best.
It's like Mandy, the empathic comedian.
Yeah, I have to fight against my urges so many times, but it does help me on stage and it helps me host.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Yeah, and I try to like make sure everybody just be kind and be nice and make sure everybody's laughing, everyone's having a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I want that. Genuinely, I'm not like, oh, I'm trying to make money with this show. Like, a lot of the times,
Yeah.
like I said, I break even, or if I made any money, I just use it to throw it to the next comedian or whatever that I can get. You
No, that's
know?
good. I think a lot of that's what we were kind of talking about. I like how the kitchen, we both mentioned like earlier in the kitchen, it's like
Mhm.
become this character.
Yeah.
But like earlier in the kitchen,
Mhm.
it's like I was telling my friends about this last night. It's like all of these podcast things, these like music ideas and comedy sketch things that we might do, my friends and I might do. It's like I just want to focus on like giving people value and laughing. I don't want to focus on like. I mean, it's nice. That's a nice thing. I feel like the reward itself comes if you're really like trying to give people value and like increase their like well-being.
Yeah.
With what you're putting out there. And then I think a natural reward is like people will like that. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And I think that stuff builds from that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and as a comedian, I'm networking. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
networking. I'm getting good comedians in there and they're watching me run my room, you know? And like, if I want to host at a big girl comedy club one day,
Yeah.
like I'm networking and I'm meeting people that want to do what I'm doing and I want to do what they're doing and we can help each other in that respect. And the more people that know you're funny and that know you can be consistently funny, and know that you can walk in any room and be funny, and they don't have to worry about you. They don't have to worry about you offending people, or they don't have to worry about you not being funny.
They know what
like,
they're getting.
yeah, like, and it's once you can get to that level of you're like consistently funny in every single room, in every, and that's my goal with it. It's
That's
not
very cool.
cash. Like, I'm not
Cash money.
If you're trying to get rich, stand-up comedy is not the game you want to be in. Like, because everyone's like, oh, Kevin Hart. You are not Kevin Hart. And Kevin Hart had to work very, very hard to get where he is.
I didn't like Kevin Hart's last special.
Oh, see, but he made a buttload of money.
But who am I? I mean,
doing that.
I'm sure Kevin Hart's like, oh, really? Oh my God, I got to change my whole bits now because Keith Summers didn't like it. Fuck that guy. I don't know who the fuck he is. Fuck him.
Right.
No, he's fun. I love Kevin Hart. He's good.
Yeah. I mean, well, you think of people like Kathy Griffin. There's a lot of people are like, oh, Kathy Griffin. And I'm like, yeah, she's really worried about you in her mansion.
Oh, I know. Exactly. I know.
Not everyone's going to like you. Like, you have to get your fans, and those are your fans. Like,
it was funny. Sometimes I kind of have to watch things like 2 or 3 times because because like the first time I feel like I'm like, some of it's pretty funny, but like some stuff it's like you got to like pay attention, Yeah. So like I actually want to watch that again. Well, speaking of that brings me to like, I'm wondering who do you and we don't want to offend anybody by leaving anybody out, but let's think about like your kind of local, like who are you a fan of locally that maybe like if people are like even me be like, hey, do you see this person around? If you see
anywhere where Nancy Norton is performing, she is probably one of the ones locally that I look up to the most. She just recently last year won the Boston Comedy Festival. She was the first woman to ever win that festival. It was like a $10,000 grand prize or whatever. She's in the Seattle Comedy Festival right now. She I don't know, she's doing really well, and she's so funny. Like, I have never seen her be scared of a room. Like, she walks in there and she just owns it. And she is a nurse, or she used to be a nurse before she started comedy. So she has she can market to that. She can say, like, she has shows that she runs at Comedy Works where, she sort of panders out to the nurses and like, come and we'll talk about this. And like, she'll have all female shows where it's just an all female audience, which I respect very much. And she's like someone who is my age or older that is doing this for real. And she's been doing it for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I just
dialed in.
Yeah. And I mean, she's amazing. Like, and this is what she does for a living. And, I look at people like her and I'm just like, oof. And then there's also on the other end, Michelle Swagger. She just started doing comedy this year. And her jokes are so well written. And she's green. Like, you can tell she's green on stage, and she's getting better every day. Like, I actually booked her on my the repeal party that we were talking about at Long Cookie. She's gonna do 5 minutes there, and I like giving her a chance because she's gonna do great things. Like, she's one of the comedians that I look at that I'm like, oh, like, you're gonna be so much better than me when you're at my oh, no. When she gets to my level, when she's done it, has a few years under her belt, she's gonna be so good, and it's gross. And like, I want to give her opportunities. I want to be friends with her. I want to write with her. I want to, because she's so good. I like her. I really like the local scene right now. John Novastad. He's also been doing this for 30 something years. He's hilarious. Andy Main that you saw. I like her a lot.
Yeah, she was funny as hell.
Yeah.
You know who, speaking of that night, there was a girl, what I like to do is I look around and I'm like, oh, I can tell she's like one of the comedians. There was the Asian lady from Fort Collins was hilarious. She blew it up.
Yeah.
And then there was one, I don't know where she was from.
Salma.
Yeah, she was like,
Zaki.
I was watching her. She was sitting behind me, and I was like, to me, I always think that we have like these, like, there's like, there's like me, Keith Summers, me, like, hi, this is me, hi, every day, what you see. But then there's like this being or whatever it is that lives inside of me that's like creative.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the performance type personality. In person. So it's always interesting to me, like when I was watching her, I'm like, what's her personality? Like,
she's awesome.
And she was hilarious. I was like,
love her
wow.
so much.
Because when you look at her, my initial impression was like, oh, she's like kind of like introverted, seemed like. And then she just gets up there and blows it up.
Oh my gosh, she
awesome.
killed it.
Yeah.
Her, Salma Zaki and Eric Shee, they are powerhouses. Like, and the thing about Eric Shee is he's 17.
He's a 17-year-old. Yeah, he's
17.
Hilarious.
He's so funny. And when you talk to him after his set, he's like, did I do okay? What do you think I could have done better? You know what I mean? And when you see something, I was saying this the other day, when you meet a truly successful comedian, like a very, very successful, does this very well, they're usually really nice.
Yeah, they're cool.
And they usually don't go off the stage like, I crushed that shit. They come off the stage and they're like, oh, I missed this joke, or I should have done this better.
Yeah.
Because they're constantly working and they're constantly thinking about what they're doing. And I appreciate that very much. When you meet someone that thinks that they're at that level, you know, I mean, it can get exhausting because they're just like, well, I did this and I did that and I need more time and I'm better than this person. It's just like, get off your shit. Like,
Yeah.
do you pay your bills with this?
It's like that in music too. You're like, okay, get away from this guy.
Yeah, like usually the people that are the best are the most humble and the most nice to work with and easy to work with and fun, and that's what I'm looking for. Like,
who are some of your thinking about like Chappelle type people, like some of your more, I don't know, how would you say, like nationally?
Yeah,
known,
I will
famous?
I will definitely watch Chappelle. I like Taylor Tomlinson a lot. She's really good. I like Eliza Schlesinger a lot. Yeah, she has a special out called Elder Millennial. And I relate to stuff like that because I am an elder millennial.
Is she on Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
She's on Netflix.
Sweet. Now I'm planning my night out now.
Yeah. She's awesome. She's fun. If I'm going old school and before they lost their mind, I really looked up to Roseanne Barr. And I really enjoyed her comedy. Like growing up, I watched the Roseanne show a lot. And there's a few sometimes you have to separate the art and the artist. You know what I mean?
No, you do. You know what's funny about that? This is a little side comment, but I was thinking about this morning. Like Jerry Garcia is one of my favorite musicians. You know, great. Like he wrote really great, intricate stuff. Great singer, but it's always funny when people are like, "He's a fucking heroin addict or the drugs." But it's like, you know what? Like, living life on the road's pretty hard. You know what I mean? Like, to get to the point where if you ever get to the point where you're like successful and well, you know, financially successful where you can afford a tour bus. Yeah. You've had to put a lot of time in to get there and a lot of rough times. So it's like, you know, like don't hate on the person and the choices they make, especially if they're not hurting, you know what I mean? Like,
well, and I mean, if you're looking like at someone like Roseanne, like she shot herself in the foot and she got what was coming to her. Like I mean, you're like, oh, she's
racist. Yeah.
Yeah, like exactly. She needs to suffer. She is, you know, and she's not out there anymore. Like she's done. Like that's what's happening.
That's a good point. But I guess different levels to the game, you know, but like it is, you said separate the artist from like, you know, life's, but yeah, there's a difference between like hurting other people and doing harm to people versus like, you know, like you're self-inflicting, you're aware of what you're doing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and you look at people like Roseanne or like the Louis C.K.'s or the people that are, you know, fallen. You did laugh at their stuff before, you know what I mean? And I like, even in music, like R. Kelly and all, like Michael Jackson and all that stuff, like I don't necessarily listen to their music. I don't go and listen to Roseanne Barr stand up anymore. You know, I don't, but I recognize the influence that it had on me. Like I watched the Roseanne Barr show. Like I watched Roseanne, I watched all of that. And I followed her career and I really enjoyed her. And
it's a shame, but I also think there's a level of like, you know, it's hard to tell. Like sometimes people just fuck up.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
Artists, like I hate to put the cat out of the bag, but most artists are fucking nuts. Like,
yeah, I know.
We're not normal people. Like there's always, every time I meet a comedian that's great, like they've got some sort of depression or some sort of something happened or they're struggling with something. And financially, this is not a great thing to do. So I mean, a lot of people will go broke trying to travel and trying to do comedy, and it's tough. Like it is. And if you don't go at it from a positive point of view, it'll eat you alive. And a lot of these people, it gets into your head hard. And it's like the decisions that they make are the decisions that they make.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard. Like when you think, I always think of it like, I'm not a Buddhist guy, but I read a lot of that sort of philosophy. And it's almost like refreshing for me where it's like, oh, I don't have to be perfect. Again, I don't want to like hurt anybody's feelings or do any harm to anybody in any way. But sometimes I think like with Roseanne, I'm like, that was definitely effed up. But like, and I don't support any of that stuff, but ultimately like she is human.
Well, and I listened to
but how do they recover is what I'm like, is there sincerity in the recovering? Can the person be like, I fucked up?
Did you listen to the Joe Rogan with her?
I didn't really. Well, here's the thing. I'm saying all this stuff about like forgiveness of people, but
Mhm.
like I kind of don't really listen to her anymore.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Well, I
like,
don't either.
I was like, I was messed up. Well, you did. That was
Well,
still.
and if you listen to
I'm a hypocrite.
Joe Rogan, like she goes into why she said what she said and she explains it. And she actually grew up. I've read her books and I know a lot about her. So when she grew up, she lived with her grandparents in an apartment complex, and they only housed survivors from the Holocaust. So she grew up in an apartment complex full of people that had like tattoos on their arms and stuff and numbers. And
Jeez.
yeah, I mean, she's not a racist person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like a lot of her tweet was it was political, and that's what she was trying to say, because like I guess Planet of the Apes, I've never really seen it, but it's like a political fight.
It's like the ultimate douchery.
Right. Like it's very, and she was comparing that woman to, the politics, and
Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah, so it was taken completely out of context. But on the other hand, they told her not to tweet. Like they begged her not to tweet because they were coming out with the reboot of Roseanne, and she's insane and she says crazy shit. So they asked her specifically, don't have a Twitter account. Don't tweet, please. Like, we're going to make you relevant again. We're going to bring you back. We're going to bring the Roseanne show back. Don't tweet. And she didn't listen. So I'm like, at a basic level, I'm like, you fucked up. Like, that was really stupid. Like, we were talking about this on my podcast. Like, she could have made a Twitter account called Donald Duck, and she could have tweeted some crazy shit and nobody would have cared. Like, why did you do it under your name?
Yeah.
Like, if you really had to tweet that bad, if Twitter is really in your blood that bad and you have to do it, like, make a fake account and get all your racist, crazy shit, whatever hell you're going to say. But don't blow, like, an opportunity because, I mean, if you're an ABC, NBC, whatever, and someone does that, they're not going to continue to work with you.
It's like that working with kids, like a couple of these kids where I'm like, you just got to give me something to work with here.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go to bat for you. I will do whatever it takes to help you be successful.
Exactly.
But if you're walking to class,
help
being
yourself.
Go F yourself. I got nothing.
Exactly. It's the same thing. It's like she's so like, I don't know if it's power hungry or if it's like fuck the man or whatever she is. It's just don't tweet. Like, how hard? I mean, I don't tweet a lot.
Yeah.
It can't be.
Well, that's like my Facebook. I'm like, all I need people to know if they find me, like parents out there, is like, this guy likes to cook.
Mm-hmm.
He says really nice things, and it's genuine. It's not, like, but like, there used to be I remember that, when I party a lot, there was like the alter ego. Like, I'd wake up in the morning, my laptop would be open on my bed, dead, the battery dead. I'm like, fuck, what did I put on there? Then I'm like, hey, and I'd like plug it in. I'm like, Facebook. I'm like, ooh, we shouldn't have made fun of people who were independently wealthy. You know what I mean? Then I have to call people like, hey, I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just got to stop.
I stick with comedy shows, and funny upbeat stuff. Like, you're not going to go on my Facebook and find out my deepest, darkest secrets. Like, you're really not. Like, that's not how that's going to work.
You want any more since I stopped drinking 5 years ago?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you talk to me for more than 5 minutes, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Yeah. I'm the worst with that.
It's good.
Yeah. But I'm like, whatever. I'm not going to put it in writing, though. That's not going to happen. I'll talk about it.
Sometimes I do drop sentimental stuff.
I'm
like, I think my mom. and sometimes my buddy would be like, have you heard of journaling? Maybe you should journal. But ultimately, like, I like to think about like human connection and thinking about like, like, I don't know, like maybe somebody reads it and they're like, oh, that's cool. Think,
right.
Like, and sometimes for me, it's like we remember people live on. I'm not really religious. I'm not, like, I know some people in my family think like, oh, your mom and dad are up in heaven together. I'm like, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
but like, if that works for you. I'm not saying you're right or wrong, because I don't know if I'm right or wrong. But like, I think more importantly, it's just like how to, you're keeping their memory alive. And I don't do this all the time. Like, sometimes I get like sentimental funk, and then also making someone think of maybe someone they lost, or like maybe they call their mom and reconnect with someone because they read something, Or maybe they're just like, there's something fucking wrong with Summers posting this dumb shit again. I'm just gonna scroll right past it because it's like really long. No,
well, I'm sure people get to the point where they're like, okay, she's got a show. Okay, she's doing another show. Okay, she's doing another show.
Yeah, it's like, we get it, dude. You're playing in Longmont.
My god, you're a comedian. We get it. I need to start putting more of my bits and stuff on there, which I'm getting there. like, I'm very good at forgiving myself.
Yeah.
I'm very good at being like, I'm not doing anything today. I'm going to watch Cheers all day and smoke a bowl. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. I'm very, very easy.
Cheers
like,
and Norm.
yeah. I will give myself that time off and let my brain do that.
That's good.
Yeah. You have
You have to do that. Take a little break.
Yeah. Or like, nothing will be fun anymore.
It's got to be fun, especially if your job. It's got to be interesting. I always think about that too, where it's like if your job is to be funny, or this is a good question. Maybe we'll kind of wrap up some closing thoughts on this. Oh, you know what? Sometimes I think a lot about is like, and I wonder this with comedy. That with music, it's always weird. Like I could be sick, or like, man, I just haven't slept much. Like all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like prior to the gig, and I'm not playing like high level. I'm playing like breweries, and
Right.
Well, I consider myself a bottom feeder these days, but it's always interesting to me how like once I start to play, like all that stuff goes away.
Oh yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like like the tiredness. That's like you're in it, and you're like, all right, boom.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you take a break, and you just like collapse again.
It comes right back.
It's
Yeah.
the same thing with like
absolutely
going up. Just performance art.
Yeah. I mean, there's been days where I had to host my open mic that night, and everything went wrong that day, and I'm just life stuff is getting me down, and then I go and I host and have a drink and see all my friends. And I literally have posted, when we were talking about Facebook, I've posted some, hey, do you want to come to an open mic with the host that's about to have a mental breakdown? Yeah. You're in luck. Come on out Thursday night. I'm like, give me a hug, please. And I posted that, and that night, probably 14, 15 comedians came and gave me a hug. And it's my community. It's like,
that's cool.
And they're genuinely like, are you okay? Because they understand I'm running shows, I'm booking them, I'm getting paid, I'm getting them paid, I'm giving them an outlet every Thursday.
Hustling.
Yeah, like
I'm out there hustling,
and they appreciate it. And it's not a thing where I'm like, well, you guys owe me this, I'm doing. It's just something I want to do, and they appreciate it, and I appreciate them for coming, because if they didn't come, wouldn't matter.
Well, you bring up a good point, and I think that's even thinking about people who are thinking about any sort of performing art or arts. Like with music, it's always been cool to me. It's like I never needed, like when I came out here to college, I didn't have to join a fraternity.
Right.
Like I already, like the music led me to other like-minded
You already
people.
have your weirdos.
You have your weirdos, your homies. You know what I mean?
Everywhere you go. Yeah.
Like, wow, I'm not that fucked up after all.
Oh man, it's so true. Every time I've done like an open mic out of state or somewhere where I didn't know anybody, after my set, I had 5 friends.
Friends, yeah.
Yeah, like it's easy, it's fun. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's definitely, you have your weirdos.
You have people that you can connect with, and I think that's important in this day of like the telephone age. It's like it's important to have or cell phone age. It's like important to connect with people and have real social connections. And I think any sort of art, like performance art, especially where other people get where you're coming from. They know what it's like if you're just beginning and they've been doing it for a long time.
There's levels to everything.
But it also makes unless there's always going to be some douches, but you kind of get past all that stuff, and you kind of know who you can connect with.
It absolutely amazes me sometimes too. Like, I know this is bitchy, but even before I started performing, if I walked in somewhere and someone was on a microphone, I was paying attention to them and I respected them for it. You know, and there are some people that just, don't give a shit.
Like I hate the keyboard warrior, where I'm like, I always hate critics in general, because I'm like people just bash shit because they're, I don't know why, but like I hate the keyboard warriors that like you were saying, like you did the show and someone walked out and gave you a bad review, where it's like, well, what are you really? A, you don't, just because you don't like something doesn't mean to bash it. B, well, what are you really adding to the?
What are you doing?
Or do you have the balls to go up there?
Exactly.
It takes balls, it takes more than balls. Okay, sorry, that was a sexist statement. But you know what I mean? It takes guts to get up there. And
I've said to so many people who've tried to like talk shit, and I'm like, where are your jokes though? You got jokes?
Yeah.
You want to go up there? You got jokes? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, don't run your mouth. Like, this is hard, and people work at it, and they deserve at least for you to pay attention to them if they're up there.
Yeah, I think comedians have, I don't know, this is just my own opinion, but I think they have as far as performance art, probably the most challenging. I don't know, because the idea of just being up there with a microphone, it's different than music in a lot of ways. It's different, obviously, but what you're doing and delivering and what you're trying to go for, it's like make people laugh. I'm not going up there to play bass. I'm kind of funny, but like my goal of playing bass isn't to make people laugh.
Right.
I mean, people might laugh at what I'm playing, be like, I can't believe someone's just fucked up like that and played that. You know, but my goal isn't to like, you know, like when you're a comedian, you're there to make people laugh.
Mhm.
And I think I have so much respect for anyone who
Me
goes up
too.
there and puts it on the line, because that's hard, man.
It's really hard. Well, and if you have a crowd of people, say there's like 20 people in the crowd,
Everyone's so fucking judgmental
and
too. Like,
19 of them are laughing so hard, and that one is just like, that's the one you're thinking about.
yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a good point.
That's the one you're thinking about. That's the one in your head. That's the one you're trying to get to crack a smile. Like, and it sucks because it should be about the 19 that are laughing.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when you're a performer, you see that one person.
Oh yeah,
that's
like when
just
I'm playing, someone leaves, you're like, oh my god, is it me?
Yeah.
Did they not like the song we're playing? And meanwhile, the guy's like, fuck, I just got an emergency phone call from my wife, my kids, you know, I had an allergic reaction to
Right.
peanuts. You know?
Right. Well, and like that's what I was trying to say before too. It's about the jokes. It's not about you.
Too, yeah,
Don't
yeah.
take it personally. They're just not in your world. You know, like
I like
if someone's not laughing and they're not in my world, they're not an ant. They're not whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's not my fault.
Do you like Ali Wong?
I love Ali Wong.
She's hilarious.
Yeah, she's great. I love Ali Wong. Oh, another local one. He just won Comedy Works New Faces. Derek Stroop. He's from Alabama. Oh my gosh, he's so funny. He's so southern, and he will yell at you.
Nice.
And he's so funny. He's a powerhouse. Every time I've seen him, he's just burnt the roof off the building. People are just like, "What?"
Nice.
And he's so relatable, and you know what he's telling you, whether it's true or not. You know it's true.
Yeah.
when you're like, he engages everybody, and I don't know. I love that high energy because I'm not there. I'm kind of a mid energy kind of a comedian,
yeah,
and
that's
he's
all right, though.
you know. But it's something I'm learning, finding your voice and whatnot.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, like people's delivery and pitches and personalities. And it's like, I mean, even if you think about like a guy like Chappelle, he's not necessarily high energy, dude. He kind of trucks you along.
Yeah.
You know, and you're along with them. You know, versus like Kevin Hart, who's like,
will scream out. Yeah. Who is just the whole time.
Like, how many shots of espresso did you have, homie?
Exactly. That's exactly like, I don't know. And it's fun to play with that.
Well,
good
cool.
energies.
I think we should let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wrap it up.
Yeah. Thanks
Speaking
for having
Dave
me.
Chappelle. Wrap it up. Remember that? Do you remember that one?
I do.
Yeah, it's good. Well, cool.
Sweet.
Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Ding,
That's
ding.
right. We'll do one last final plug here. So we have Mandy Kay, local comedian. The first Friday of every month, she has a great comedy show with 4 to 5 comedians each night that are really diverse setup and really great. It's at the Front Range Brewing Company in Lafayette, Colorado. She also has an service industry night at the Chiba Hut in Longmont, which is Tuesday night. Not to be confused with Thursday night, like I said earlier. But on Thursday night, speaking of Thursday, at Long Tucky Spirits, she has an open mic night, and she also has a great podcast called The Three Mandys, which is you can find on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and other fine platforms.
Wherever you listen to your podcast.
That's right. Much love to all you folks out there.
Yeah,
Cheers.
thank you.
Whoop.
We did stuff. We did a thing.